The Golden Fields of October, Chapter 1, The Last Season. The morning sun stretched across the Virginia hills, laying its golden light over the fields. Corn stalks rustled in the crisp October breeze, their hushed voices carrying a weight of finality. Earl Whitman stood at the edge of his land, hands buried deep in his jacket pockets. 58 years old, he felt every ache in his bones, reminders of decades of hard work and a lifetime tied to this soil. This was the last harvest, the final October he would spend walking these rows. For 3 generations, the Whitman farm had fed both the family and the town of Mildook. But times had changed. Costs had risen, buyers had dwindled, and Earl had no children to pass the land to. His wife, Ruth, had been gone 5 years now. Since her death, the farm felt emptier, quieter, and heavier all at once. Neighbors had urged him to sell years ago, but pride kept him here. Pride and memories. Ruth's laughter echoing across the fields when she was young, her voice calling him in for supper, the way she once painted the barn red because she said the farm deserved some joy too. Now, as the leaves turned shades of amber and scarlet, Earl knew the farm's story was ending. He'd agreed to sell the land to a development company. Soon, these fields would become neat rows of houses, driveways, and mailboxes. No more golden seas of corn. No more October mornings like this. But before that happened, he had one last harvest to bring in, one last chance to feel the weight of the soil in his hands, to breathe in the scent of cut hay, to say goodbye to the land that had shaped his life.
Chapter 2, The Unexpected Visitor. By late afternoon, Earl was tightening the straps on the old harvester when he noticed a car kicking up dust along the gravel road. Cars didn't usually pull into his drive, not anymore. Out stepped a woman in her early 30s, carrying a leather satchel and a notebook tucked under her arm. Her hair was the color of autumn chestnuts, and her smile was warm but hesitant. "Mr. Whitman?" she called. Earl wiped his brow with his sleeve. "That's me. Can I help you?" "My name's Claire Jennings. I'm a journalist with the county paper. I heard this was the Whitmans' last harvest, and I wanted to talk to you, to maybe capture the story." Earl frowned. "Not much of a story here, just an old man closing shop." But Claire shook her head. "It's more than that. This land has been part of the town's history for over a century. People grew up eating food from these fields. Your family helped build Millbrook." Earl studied her. She was young, eager, probably looking for a feel-good piece to fill the paper's autumn issue. Yet there was something in her eyes, sincerity perhaps, or maybe the same kind of longing he felt when he looked at these fields. Finally, he sighed. "You want to walk with me? These fields tell the story better than I ever could." And so, as the day stretched into gold and shadows, Earl led Claire across the land, his boots crunching against dry soil, her pen scratching quietly as he spoke. He told her about Ruth, about the years of good harvests and bad, about storms that had nearly broken him, and seasons that had brought hope. By the time they reached the far end of the property, the sky was streaked with orange. Claire closed her notebook and said softly, "This isn't just about farming. It's about life and love, and holding on even when everything changes." Earl swallowed hard, caught off guard by the lump in his throat. He nodded. "Yeah, something like that."
Chapter 3, Memories in the Barn. That evening, Claire asked if she could see the barn. Earl hesitated, but led her inside. Dust floated in the air, lit by thin shafts of light slipping through the cracks in the wooden walls. Against the far wall was Ruth's old rocking chair, still facing the fields. Earl hadn't touched it since the day she passed. On a shelf, yellowing photo albums leaned against jars of nails and bolts. Claire traced her fingers along the spine of one album and asked, "Mind if I look?" Earl gave a small nod. She opened it carefully, revealing photographs of family gatherings, barn dances, and rows of golden wheat stretching into the horizon. In every photo, Ruth was smiling, her eyes bright, her presence luminous. "She looks like she lit up every room she walked into," Claire said. "She did," Earl whispered. His voice cracked. "She was the heart of this place. Without her, it's just dirt and wood." Claire closed the album gently. "Mr. Whitman, places hold memory, but it's people who give them meaning. You kept this farm alive long after most would have walked away. That means something." Earl turned away, blinking back tears. He hadn't cried in years, not even at Ruth's funeral. But somehow, this young woman's words unlocked something he had kept buried deep.
Chapter 4. The Festival. A week later, Millbrook's annual Harvest Festival filled the town square with pumpkin displays, hay rides, and music drifting from the gazebo. Earl rarely went. Too many people, too many reminders. But Claire had insisted. "You can't sell your farm and skip your last Harvest Festival," she'd said with that stubborn grin. So Earl went. He wore his old denim jacket, the one Ruth had patched a dozen times, and tried not to feel out of place among the laughter and the smell of cider. Neighbors greeted him, surprised but pleased to see him. Some clapped his back, others thanked him for feeding their families all these years. As the sun set, Claire pulled him toward the stage where a local band began to play. It was an old country tune, one Ruth had loved. Earl froze, the sound hitting him like a wave. For a moment, he was young again, spinning Ruth around on a makeshift dance floor, her laughter mingling with the music. Claire touched his arm. "Would you like to dance?" He shook his head. "Haven't danced in years." But she didn't take no for an answer. And so, under the October sky, Earl took her hand and let the music carry him. His steps were clumsy, his body stiff, but in that moment, he felt alive, as if the farm, the town, and even Ruth herself were reminding him that life wasn't over yet.
Chapter 5. Letting Go. The final harvest came 2 weeks later. Earl worked from dawn until dusk, the harvester's engine roaring across the fields, his body aching, but his spirit strangely light. Claire visited often, bringing sandwiches, writing notes, sometimes just sitting quietly while he worked. She asked questions about Ruth, about the farm, about his plans after the sale. "I don't know," he admitted one evening. "I've only ever been a farmer. Without this place, I'm not sure who I am." Claire smiled. Maybe that's the gift of endings. They make space for new beginnings. When the last load of corn was brought in, Earl stood at the edge of the field, watching the sun sink low, painting everything in shades of fire and gold. He felt Ruth beside him, her hand slipping into his, her voice whispering, "You did good, Earl. You did real good." Tears rolled freely down his cheeks. This time, he didn't fight them. Chapter 6. The Golden Fields of October. On the day he signed the papers, Earl walked the land one final time. The developers would come soon, but for now, the fields were still his, still golden, still whispering the stories of generations. Claire walked beside him, her notebook closed, her eyes filled with understanding. "Will you write about it?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "But more than that, I'll remember it, and so will everyone who reads it." Earl nodded. That's all I could ask for it to be remembered. As they reached the edge of the property, Earl turned one last time. The fields glowed in the October sun, stretching out like waves of gold. For the first time in years, he felt at peace. The land had given him everything: love, laughter, heartbreak, and strength. And now, as autumn wrapped the town in its quiet beauty, Earl Whitman let go, ready for whatever came next. And the fields, the golden fields of October, whispered their farewell. The end. Subscribe.